The Pope has made championing the downtrodden a trademark of his papacy, and he likely raised the Rohingya crisis directly during his closed-door meetings in Myanmar. Unquestionably, Francis is the moral leader of the world. Currents News' Michelle Powers looks at the pontiff as a diplomat.
May I announce the arrival of His Holiness?
It's not easy to be both an emissary and a missionary, a diplomat and a prophet. But Pope Francis seems to pull it off, perhaps never as gracefully as his current mission.
A lot of people at this trip are focusing on the challenges, but the church also sees signs of hope.
Father Peter Purpura, who studied at the Vatican's diplomatic corps, says Pope Francis faces a dilemma on his trip to Southeast Asia. Be prophetic, speak out against injustice, and put the Christian minority at risk in Myanmar, or heed advice to remain silent and have critics question his moral authority. Instead, Father Peter believes the Holy Father took another carefully meditated path.
You know, the church thinks in greater terms, right? So a lot of people, what is going to be accomplished now? You know, these could be kind of seeds that are being planted that will only, flourish in time.
In Myanmar, the Holy Father called for peace without calling the Rohingya by name.
Le differenze religiose non devono essere fonte di divisione e di diffidenza, ma piuttosto una forza per l'unità, per il perdono, per la tolleranza e la saggia costruzione del Paese.
And no one misunderstood his message. Still others were not satisfied. They wanted him to publicly criticize the military.
One thing we don't know is what went on behind closed doors. So what is the Holy Father saying? How is he, expressing his hopes? And the other thing that's going to continue to happen, now that the Holy Father is gone, for now years to come, the Pope's representative there is going to knock on the door of the government and say, remember what the Pope said?
The big question is, will the Pope's visit have any effect in a country that so desperately needs respect of human life? Father Peter points to the example of a man who we now call a saint.
You could see, the efforts of John Paul to combat communism, and therefore the fall of communism.
Father Peter says it will take time to see if Pope Francis's diplomatic efforts bear any fruit. Liz?
Michelle, do you think that the Pope and the Cardinal of Myanmar were being overly cautious about the possibility of government blowback and the persecution of Christians?
No, absolutely not. The persecution of Christians has been clearly documented by the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom. In the minds of many in the military, you cannot be a citizen of Myanmar unless you are a Buddhist, and that's despite the fact Catholics have lived there for over 500 years, Liz.
All right, Michelle, thank you so much.